Welcome back. Joining us now to talk about his new gig and much, much more, Eliot Spitzer, host of Viewpoint on Current TV, and of course, as we know, former governor of the state of New York. Eliot, thanks for a couple minutes. I appreciate it.
Richard, a pleasure to be chatting with you.
I tell you, usually you guys want to stay away from the camera as much as possible. Now, this is something you embrace here. You like this media thing, huh?
Oh, it's exciting. It's energetic. The show itself at 8 o'clock on 103 on Time Warner and 107 Comcast is exciting. Look, you know me when I was governor. I love to chat with you guys in the media. Always tried to give you answers on any issue if I could. And so, look, I believe in talking to the public, explaining what's going on in government and the economy. That's what the show's going to be about.
Well, as a obviously former prosecutor, you like to read legal documents. You've read the back and forth between the predecessor and the 8 o'clock hour, the show you now have, and your current employer. It's fun stuff to read. What's been the fallout?
Oh, look, I wish Keith only the best. I'm sure folks here wish him only the best as well. That's sort of history. We look forward not only in this business, but in every other business. The question is, how can you create a program the public's going to enjoy, learn from? You know as well as I do, there's a lot of media out there on many different platforms, from the internet to TV, and so we're trying very hard to create a setting where folks will understand what's going on in the world. We'll have great guests and a great conversation about economics, politics, culture, whatever the issue of the moment may be, and they're going to understand things a little better after the show.
All right, let's talk about an area you know well. You earned the title Sheriff of Wall Street when you cracked down on some of the abuses there in New York. Now, the Citigroup story, is this a blip on the radar here, or do you think it's a harbinger that not only shareholders have had enough here, but there's still a lot of antipathy, whether it's the 1 and the 99%, whatever the reasoning is? Does this story have legs?
Absolutely, it has legs. I think this is the first sign of an oncoming wave of shareholder discontent that will manifest itself. Dodd-Frank gave shareholders the opportunity in the say-on-pay voting capacity to say to CEOs, we've had enough. And I think many institutional shareholders are going to say, look, we're happy to pay CEOs if they produce. I think the question for most shareholders is going to be, are we overpaying CEOs who have not produced for the companies which they are leading? And I think when you look at the correlation or lack of correlation between CEO compensation and performance, a lot of shareholders are going to get upset. And so I have long been proselytizing, not a word I often use in terms of my role in government or even in the media, that shareholders in ownership have the capacity to change corporate governance. We shouldn't just rely on government and prosecution and regulation. Shareholders own the companies. It's about time the owners stood up and said, wait a minute, that's our money that you're taking. We want you to perform before we pay you as much as we have. So I think this is an ongoing revolution among shareholders, and it's a good thing.
You surprised, for all the talk and all, if you look at every poll here, the American public has had it with Wall Street and perceived and realistic inequities, that the White House hasn't seized on it. We saw what happened with the Volcker rule. A lot of people think, given what the president inherited, he took it pretty easy in his first term here on Wall Street.
Well, Richard, you know that I agree with the premise of your question, which is that the president was not tough enough on Wall Street. He has not pushed for the structural reform. There have not been the aggressive prosecutions. And as a consequence, you can read articles like Andrew Ross Sorkin's article in the Times, which goes through the litany of members of boards of directors who are at the center, right at the vortex of all the stuff that went on that was wrong, who are still there. In other words, we have not seen either the structural or the personnel changes that one would have anticipated, given the enormous magnitude of what went wrong. And I think that speaks to the lack of accountability. I think it speaks to the fact that Tim Geithner, whom many people have supported, I have been harshly critical of his unwillingness to address head-on the structural problems, the mortgage crisis. I think there has not been a sufficient effort to fundamentally change the way business is done. Banking should be boring. Banking should be a conduit so that money goes from one sector to be invested in another. Instead, the bankers took it upon themselves to scrape off more than they deserved, and that was part of the problem.
Let me switch gears here. I'm surprised. I mean, I know it's gotten press, but that News Corp still hasn't gotten smacked even harder than they have. And there is a domestic element to this, even with what we already know. Forget about what might come out. Can you explain to the folks at home on how Murdoch's problems carry over to the states from illegal exposure?
Sure. Let me give you a 10-second legal primer. There's something called the FCPA, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. It makes it illegal for a company that is headquartered here in the United States to pay bribes overseas. Even if the bribes are paid overseas, if the company is headquartered here and has SEC filings here, then that company is on the hook legally here in the United States. News Corp has admitted bribes, hacking, and all sorts of bad stuff over in England on the part of its journalists. The question is, will they be held accountable here? As a legal matter, I don't think there's any question they could be. Now, what this dovetails with is the brewing scandal at Walmart. I think that is going to bring a lot of attention to the FCPA. What happened at Walmart in Mexico, where the bribes were paid, but the cover-up orchestrated here, is going to put the Justice Department in a bind. If they don't proceed with prosecutions against Walmart and News Corp, people are going to say to them, hey, guys, what do you stand for? And I think there is going to be a lot of hard thinking at the Justice Department about what they do with both News Corp and Walmart, because both of them have acknowledged enormous bribes paid overseas. Hence, they have criminal and civil culpability here.
Hey, Eliot, good job, and good luck here with the gig ahead of you. I appreciate it.
Likewise to you, Richard. Always great to chat with you.
All right, we're going to jump to a break. When we come back, though, we're going to be focusing on a few law and order issues that are in the headlines right now, everything from the Trayvon trial to also what is going on as it relates with the Edwards trial. Stay with us, everyone. We've got a legal expert joining us right after this.